Today we're letting fate pick my color palette, so stick around. Hello colorists, welcome to PencilStash, a weekly show all about coloring. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to get all the new content, and be sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying my videos. Hey PencilStashers, welcome back to another PencilStash coloring tutorial. Now lately I've been watching a ton of YouTube, not only because we cut the cable, but also because it's awesome, and some of my favorite channels are art channels. And because of them, inspiration has struck. I thought it would be fun to pick some random prompts with some color palettes or some mediums, etc. at random. So I've written a bunch of different color palette options here on these little pieces of paper, and now that I think about it, it would be much easier to do this on the computer, but it's all good. We will see what inspiration I get. Jewel tones. Okay, I like it. Here we go. For our jewel tones, I've chosen this page from Imagimorphia. It's a clock, looks like a cuckoo clock with all this craziness happening around it. I love it. And right off the bat, jewel tones are not necessarily one of my go-to style choices, so this is definitely going to push me outside of my comfort zone a little bit, which is good. I've been really trying to do this lately, and it's actually one of the reasons that I decided to do a prompt challenge in the first place. Now, if I had only written my super favorite go-to things on those little pieces of paper, then how am I supposed to grow, right? So I thought it would be fun to do a challenge to kind of push ourselves a bit. And of course, we can interpret the prompts any way we like. They're just a jumping off point. And perhaps in the future, I'll branch outside of the coloring books once in a while and sketch some original stuff for you guys. Is that something that you guys might like to see? Let me know down in the comments. Now, something I regret about my process here is the way that I chose my colors, which was basically just sort of as I went along. I started with some blues since I knew I wanted to do those like cloud things in blue. I just love the stylized version of these wispy, curly clouds. So cute. But then I moved on to blocks of gradient colors as I went along, different colors. And I do wish in the beginning that I'd planned out my palette in its entirety just a little bit more, choosing at least kind of the main blocks of colors and laying them out kind of all together beforehand. Now, just personality-wise, I have a bad habit of kind of jumping into whatever I'm doing and then kind of figuring it out as I go along. And most of the time, I'm okay, but it never hurts to take an extra minute or two to plan out what you're doing, especially when it comes to working in a coloring book. Because unless you buy a new book, you'll never have another crack at that particular page ever again. So with drawing or with something else, you can just kind of crumple up your piece of paper and start over. But with a coloring book, it's a little different. If you've kind of gone in a different direction and you're not liking it, it's really hard to start over. Plus, I'd really like to get better at choosing just the right colors. It's certainly something that I know that I could be better at, so I should really take the time, the extra time to plan it all out beforehand. Another thing I tend to fall back on is too much color gradients, meaning I'll choose a range of blues and I'll stick with those across the whole surface of whatever object that I'm coloring. Then I shade it. I mean, I do this because it's just sort of my style. I really like the look of it. It makes me happy. But again, if you're looking to push yourself kind of outside of your comfort zone like I am, it just kind of helps to just kind of force yourself out of that. And when you force yourself out of it, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but there's always something good to learn from the endeavor. And the way I like to color in the Imagimorphia book, just because of the way the objects are drawn by this artist, I like to put my super light colors, most often a pastel version of the color that I'm using, in the larger, open, unshaded areas. Then I move down in my gradient from there, focusing darker colors in the areas that the artist has already shaded for us, kind of those places where those hash lines are. Making the area that I'm coloring smaller each time I move to a darker color. I'm also branching out away from that gradient, and I'm bringing in warm gray 90% to shade across pretty much all of the color blocks on this page. I think it'll work well with all the jewel tones here, and I just want to deepen some of these areas to almost black, just to create a really stark contrast between that light sort of pastel version and then that deep shaded gray on top of my jewel tones. So going back to how I chose my colors here, I really just went by the seat of my pants. I started with my blues because, again, I knew I wanted to use those on the clouds. And then I went to these rounded leaves. They were just speaking to me, screaming at me that they wanted to be pink. And looking back, I'm not entirely sure that mauve pink counts as a jewel tone, but again, I kind of moved into some of the darker fuchsias here to get into that jewel tone. So again, it's my interpretation of the prompt, so yeah. Now jumping around, this dragon screamed green to me, and I tried to go with an emerald green, again that jewel tone, and the closest that I could find in my Prismacolor line is the parrot green. So I used that as my starting out point, and then I went with one lighter and one darker from there. And I just love how these wings sort of create these kind of cavernous webbings in between. It's a perfect opportunity to shade here. It makes me very, very happy. Now I'm going to use the ultimate complement to a jewel tone, gold. And I really like using this Harvest Gold color lately. It's one of my favorites. I feel it's the perfect sidekick for one of my other favorites, my Prismacolor Bronze. And again, I've been using this color combination a lot lately. And I'm already knee deep in gradient on this page, so why not continue it right along? Now the only place I'm really deviating from the prompt here is on the wood of our cuckoo clock. And I totally could have gone colorful with this, but I kind of chose not to, just because this page is feeling a little bit too colorful, if that makes sense. And I think in the end, it's going to end up being very colorful. And I feel that our page would just kind of benefit from some grounding with some neutral colors. So I chose some of these warm browns to finish off our cuckoo clock. Now, once I get to the point where I've colored most of the main items on the page, which to me are the ones that kind of are speaking to me, the rest I just kind of go in and kind of consider like secondary things. And so then I go in and I'll color those remaining secondary items in the palette that I've already established. And I always feel if I picked kind of a bunch of new colors at this stage, that it would just throw off my page. So I'm usually really hesitant to do that. But again, I'm always just kind of worried that I'll mess it up. So I'm going to do that with our page until I have the whole page covered. I like this. It's really cute. Do you guys think that I should do a background though? Yeah, I think I do. I think I need a background. There's tons of nooks and crannies to get into on this page, so just for ease and my own sanity, let's use soft pastels. Now I want to keep this page in the book because the page on the other side of it is a double spread that I really do want to color eventually. So I'm going to need to protect the other pages somehow, and I usually do that with some scrap paper from just some other projects. I'll put it behind my page, and I'll put one on the adjacent page as well. And in hindsight, I should have ran a piece of blue painter's tape along the adjacent page instead of just using this paper, and you'll see why later, but yeah, definitely something that I will learn from this time around. Now, I have no idea what colors I want to do for the background yet. Inspiration has not struck, so I'm just going to take a look and see what I want to do here. Now, this yellow is speaking to me for some reason. It's not a jewel tone, and I'm probably cheating with this one, but it's okay. Maybe we'll add some other colors along with this yellow as we go. I'm going to fluff some of this powder all around our image with my utility knife. And then I'll rub it in circular motions with my cotton pad. Now, I do like how this is looking. I think that the yellow is just kind of a nice little bit kind of a neutral tone to some of our jewel tones. I like the way that this is looking, but I do think we should add some pink. Kind of maybe give a little bit of like a sunset kind of appearance. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to need a different pink. This pink is not showing up on top of our yellow. Let's try a darker one. And when it's all done, we're going to spray it with our matte fixative to lock all the soft pastel powder in place. And you'll see kind of down here on the side, I really should have used that tape. This is kind of what I was talking about. The soft pastel powder, it just tends to get everywhere, no matter what you do to stop it. And just for fun, I'm going to add just a little bit of white Posca paint pen. And here she is, all done. Now, what do you think of the results from our jewel tone inspiration prompt? I'm pretty happy with it. I like it. This pushed me a bit. I had a really fun time doing it. So you guys tell me, do you like the idea of these prompts? Do you think they're fun? Do you want me to keep doing them? If so, tell me down below in the comments. And also, I'd love to know what kind of prompts do you guys want to see? Do you have any ideas or suggestions for me? Again, tell me down below in those comments. Oh, and if you're curious, I also put all the colors that I used for today's page in the description below, so don't forget to check that out. That's it for me today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, hit the like button, that thumbs up one down below. And if you're new, please subscribe and check out the rest of my channel. I've got dozens and dozens of coloring tutorials for you. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next time.